Hi, and welcome to the webisode, Mr. Wilson Teaches, Ink Blot Inspired Abstractions. Today I'm going to teach you how to make an abstraction based on design and color. You're going to be using a monochromatic scheme, that means one color, and you're going to be using a value scale to create different variations of that one color. The first thing you're going to need is your supplies, which include regular computer paper. You're going to have various size paper depending on what you want your final drawing to be. So this is the size that we're working with, as well as a smaller piece to do your value scale on. You're going to have a sized piece of tracing paper, which is a fourth of what your final paper is, as well as a viewfinder that's cut to be that same size. You're also going to need a regular pencil, a ruler, and two different colored pencils, one being black and the other being the color of your choice. And it's also very handy, in case your paper is very thick, to have a light box or some sort of window or device where you're able to trace through that design. And we'll go step by step. The first step in creating your ink blot inspired abstraction is to complete a few blind contour drawings. You're going to do this with a pencil as well as a piece of paper, and you're going to look at an object and do not ever look at the paper. So you're going to just look at the object, do not pick up your pencil, and you're going to make a continual line that captures that object. There's plenty of things you can do. You can partner up and draw a person. You can draw your hand. You can draw an object in the room. So I'm quickly just going to strike a pose in my hand. I'm going to try to go through. Like I said, you're not allowed to look at the paper. I'm trying to capture all the lines, including the crevices of my hand, the fingernails, all those lines, never picking up the pencil. And I'm sure this doesn't look too hot, but oops, depending on your line quality, this will change your drawing. Just have to put in the watch. Hopefully that connects with the other wrist there. A little more detail up in there. So, as you can see, I wouldn't call that my hand by any means, but it did capture the movement, and I went through and made a continual line and tried to capture some of those details. After you're done with all of your blind contour drawings, I have a few over here pre-made. You're going to use your viewfinder. The glare on that be pretty bad. You're going to use your viewfinder and pick areas of interest. So we're looking for areas that have enough lines that you're going to be able to create a design, but not so many lines where you're going to end up having to do quite a bit of work in really small areas to color. So choose different areas, and you're going to pick parts of those areas that will then become your final drawing for your tracing paper. After you pick those areas, you're then going to take your tracing paper and you're going to trace over the areas. And it doesn't have to be perfect. The blind contours are just for the basis of it. So I'm trying to capture some of these lines. You can also simplify it or change it if you want to edit some of the lines out or add some in. And once you trace one, you then move on to the next one using the same piece of tracing paper, which is an important part. And you can also flip over your tracing paper and change the way you want it to look. And we're going to do a total of 3 of these. And I find sometimes if you still don't have enough lines, you can end up adding some more. So these eyes are pretty detailed. I'm going to simplify the lines so that it's not so difficult when I go to color it. And let's see, for my third, let's pick an area of interest here. Third, line it up. And then you should have a pretty filled design. If it seems like there's an empty spot that isn't really working for you, remember you can always add in a few lines here or there. Try to break up the space a little bit. And then you get to start your tracing, which I'll show you right on the next step. The next step in your ink blot abstraction is to place your tracing paper, which you just went through and traced all your blind contour drawings in. And you're going to put it in the corner of the final paper and try to mimic exactly what the lines look like. This part's important because if you don't get the lines correct, Then when it transfers over, it won't match the rest of it. And the goal is to try to get a symmetry line created. And make sure that you're trying to get each of these lines as accurate as you can. And also, as you work, you can find out if you added too many lines, because now you're probably kicking yourself as you go through and realize how much work this actually entails in terms of tracing. So once again, if you want to go back and edit some of this out, or if you want to add more, if you found it went way too fast, now would be the time to do that. And after you draw the first one, you're then going to take the paper and flip it. This part can be a little confusing because the flipping part, and you'll notice it should line up. So if it doesn't line up, there's a problem, and you probably didn't flip it the right way. Think about it as a line of symmetry or a reverse picture in the mirror. And as you do this, two pictures will start to appear. So you can see I have two V's, or mountain ranges almost, that I did not have before. And what's fun about these is, depending on your personality, you're going to start to see different things. And as long as you're copying everything correctly, you're doing it right. And this will be followed by another flip, and then you're going to create another line of symmetry, and you would trace this here, and then you'd also have another flip that would go right here. I'm going to jump ahead to one that I've already completed so we can go over the next step. So this one I've already transferred or traced the 4 different areas, and you can see it all matches and comes together nicely. This is the part where you're going to now switch over to your value scale and decide what colors you want to make this. And when you have your value scale, you start by taking your ruler, and I just trace both ends of it, and then take the other part and start to separate some lines. Now, it's not important that it's completely accurate in terms of measurement, but as long as you're getting 5 zones. And then the colors I've chosen are orange, and I've got my black. So you start on the darkest end. And for time's sake, I'm going to scribble this in pretty quickly. You should spend a lot of time getting rid of all the white on the pages, making sure the color is all even throughout. And the next color moving on is the darkest of the oranges. So it's all about your hand pressure. And this one too, I'm going to add a little black in just to darken it up. And depending on the color pencil brand you're using, some of them blend a little nicer than others. But this is just adding a little more value into it. And the next one is the next shade or tint of orange. Tone. And then we're going to go even lighter. And I'm going to leave the last one white. So I'm creating a value scale going from black to white with all my tint, tone, and shade in between of orange. And you can do this with any color. So I have quite a few over here. There's a blue one, green, another green. I think I have a red as well. So depending on what color interests you, make sure you use that in your black. You should be all set to actually begin the coloring. When you start coloring, you want to make sure whatever area you're putting color in, so if I was to do orange here or green in this case, every time I put something in this corner, that has to be repeated in each one, and that's going to create the actual symmetry. If you don't do that, it's no longer going to look like that ink blot inspired that we were going for. It's going to start looking It's more like just a random colored in drawing. As you go through this as well, you want to make sure that you're getting all those values in. So there's a dark area, there's a light area. You can even create values of black as well. And here's the finished blue one that I just showed as well. So there's all different designs, and depending on, like I said, your personality, you're going to draw out different objects within it and see different things, and it all depends on the placement as well. And that's where that ink blot inspiration came from, the ink blot test. So that's how you create it, and like I said, you can change the size, you can change the color, and there's tons of variations on it, but all of it's based on those drawing skills and making sure your use of hand pressure and value are spot on.